I would probably say that it was the supplements, because the personal statement, like, it was really difficult, but I think like writing small, um, like like 30 words, 200 words was like really difficult, because like when you know what you want to write about, like it's easy to write a lot, but it's really hard to like make your ideas really concise and like sum up all the things you want to say in a prompt in like 200 words or 100 words or something. So definitely like learning to get straight to the point and like summarize your ideas and your supplements really concisely.
Yeah, sorry. Um, I agree with Yiga. I feel like the supplement essays were really hard on me because I did apply to a lot of schools and there are a lot of supplement essays for each school. So getting that out of the way first was really important for me. And then moving on to my main essay.
Yeah, so like Tenzin said, each school you apply to, you probably have to submit a supplemental essay, which you guys probably already know. So that's one caveat in applying to a lot of schools. So if you want to apply to like 20 different schools, you probably have to do like 20 different essays. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you're willing to kind of put in the extra work and write those essays, which many times you can reuse from college to college, then definitely do that. Um, and yeah, what Yiga and Sangmo said about it being really hard to kind of craft the perfect personal statement because you guys have like 16, 17 years worth of experiences, and it's really hard to kind of like make it all fit into just like 650 words. But that's what your Rokpa mentor is here to do. Hopefully they can help you with it, or just any other people in the Tibetan community as well. On to the third question, which is that the college application process can feel like taking an additional course load, obviously. How are you guys able to balance apps with your classes, extracurriculars, and personal life?
I think for me, I played sports throughout like high school, like all the seasons. So it was like really difficult to time manage. And I worked throughout school. So whenever I wasn't at practice, I was working. So I think just like using your class time as well, like using the time in school, like during your senior year, you shouldn't have as much work as you normally have. So every free time you get, like allocating a little bit of time to work on your essays, or get your homework done so that you'll have time later to work on your essays or something, was really important, because you always find like little bits of time in between like school and sports and work, so it's like not letting that time like get wasted by just like, it's really important to just like use that, like you get like 30 minutes in between something, or like an hour after work or school, like just use as much time as possible to work on your essays, like even for like 30 minutes a day, like review and stuff was really important. Time management.
Yeah, I feel like for time management, I've I always had a planner in my hand. So I could plan my day for tomorrow and the day after, like a week in advance, just so I have everything done. So I feel like that's really important, having a planner with you every day.
It's the same for me. I thought that planners were super useful, especially when it comes to keeping track of all your homework assignments. Because if you're taking a lot of different AP courses or IB, you're going to be having a lot of different homework from a lot of different classes. So it kind of helped to like color code different classes and assignments. And keeping organized is kind of fun too. So it's just about keeping organized.
Yeah, so organization and time management skills are probably one of the two most important traits you would need during the college application process, kind of navigating all those applications and doing it in a punctual manner. Um, are all really important. So the last question that we have on this list before we ask the audience is if you also applied to scholarships during your college application process, how did you find them and how did you make time to apply to them? Because there are a lot of like scholars here who have kind of voiced their concerns about like financial aid and scholarships, depending on what region of the country they live in. So just kind of navigating that whole process, if you could elaborate on that.
I feel like for me, I always like took the time to apply to different scholarship programs such as like Bold or Scholarship Owl. And I feel like those are very useful if you like keep on doing them over and over and over again, because if you only apply to 2 scholarships, obviously you might not get them. But applying to as many as you can and just managing them throughout, I feel like you will be able to retain them. Or even Niche. Niche is a good website.
So for me personally, I applied for a few scholarships, like outside scholarships, but I didn't get any because I applied to like really, really big scholarships, like the entire country ones that everyone applies to. So I think it's important to apply for niche scholarships. And I think it's also important to remember that it's important, like when you're choosing a college, to look at the endowment of your college. The endowment is basically like how much money they have every year, because the colleges with the larger endowments like Harvard, Stanford, NYU, Columbia, Dartmouth, all the Ivies and all the big schools, they're going to be a lot more generous with need-based financial aid and also merit-based financial aid. So I pretty much got a full ride, even though I didn't get any outside scholarships. And that was solely based on academics and need based financial aid. So, what I'm saying is like, if you're going to apply for scholarships, apply for the smaller scholarships, but also know that if you're going to apply, like Yiga was talking about, like apply to the university you don't think you're going to get into, because you just might, and they might give you a full ride. Like it really happens because they're loaded with money.
Yeah, Samuel brought up a good point about endowment. Because, like, for example, Harvard has like $50 billion plus in endowment, which is like larger than like the profits of like some countries. So really milk these institutions. And if you get a financial aid package that is not reflective of your financial need, then you can always appeal and you can keep appealing. And if you apply to different schools and you get better financial aid at another school, you can appeal to the school that you want to go to, saying like, this school gave me this much amount of money, but I really want to go to your school. Just like do everything you can. Like it doesn't hurt to keep emailing the financial aid office and appealing. Like get the money that you think you deserve to like be able to go to these schools. And for the scholarships, um, a lot of times your schools also might have scholarships that you can apply for during your senior year. So, like going to your guidance office and just being like, hey, is there any local scholarships or even like scholarships through your school that they can connect you with? Um, like from my school, for example, like there's like certain requirements about living in that town or going to that high school. But you can get like even like a few $100s or $1,000 or more through your school community, your high school community, as well as your like town or like city area. So local scholarships, like someone was saying, are really important because you're a lot more likely to get those scholarships because you're competing with a lot less people.
Yeah, it's definitely echoing on those sentiments, like applying to more niche scholarships, even the ones that are worth only like a couple $1,000s. Because if you get multiple scholarships of like small amounts, they definitely add up too. So think about that in the long term. And yeah, so I think that concludes our guided questions. But if anyone here has any questions, can you like unmute and ask or type in the chat if you feel more comfortable doing that? So we can just give like a couple of minutes for people to kind of think about a certain question and put it in the chat. But I have a question, like for those who started college, like how has your experience been so far as a first year, your first couple of days or first week at school?
Doesn't you want to go first?
Okay. So it's my second day, and already as a STEM major, it's been a little stressful because it is definitely not high school. Like the teachers We'll get the professors. We'll get right to the point. And yeah, it's a great learning experience. It was really nice meeting everyone and making new friends, being in a new environment. But overall, it is definitely not high school anymore.
Yeah, but adding on to what Ethan said, it definitely is like a completely new environment. But personally, I really like having like that independence and like the way that you can pick your own schedule and create your own like class times or like choose which classes you want at what time and like waking up a lot later because I don't have any 9 a.m. classes, so it's great. Um, but yeah, and I would definitely recommend if anyone's like dorming or like living on campus or planning to, doing like a pre-orientation program to kind of like get to know your school campus and like groups of people better before you get to campus so that when you do move, when everyone else moves into campus, you have like a sense of like community and like friends and like people that you already know. That was like a big thing for me because I did do a pre-orientation program. So I've been like, even though I started classes yesterday, I've been here for like 2 weeks. So I've like kind of adjusted to living. Um, but yeah, I definitely would recommend doing like a pre-orientation program and like using like the most out of your time, like going to the gym and eating 3 meals a day. Like all these things are really important.
Sorry, I was muted. Someone just DM'd me a question, and it's basically, did anyone apply test free? Would you recommend taking SAT if you know that you will not do well during senior year?
Okay, this is a perfect question for me because I absolutely bombed my SAT. I absolutely bombed it. I literally got a I got it. Okay, this is like hopefully it gives hope to everybody because my SAT was literally 1230, and I got into Stanford. So, but what I'm saying is I applied test optional. So if your SAT is under a certain number, go to your school and look at the percentiles, look at your target school. So I looked at Stanford and I looked at the 50th to 75th percentile range for average SAT scores of Stanford students. When I saw 1560, 1580, 1600, I was like, absolutely no. So I went ahead and I applied test optional. So I'm just saying that if you don't fall within that 50 and above percentile, you should absolutely apply optional. And they're not going to hold it against you. You just have to kind of make up for it with your essay. So if you do apply test optional like I did, make sure that your GPA is good and make sure that your extracurriculars are good and make sure that the essay is like fire, It has to be perfect.
I can add on to what someone said because I also apply test optional, and like it was the SAT. It wasn't like it was bad, but it just I looked at like the average, like someone said, like the average like scores of like people being admitted, and like current students there as well, and it just if it's not like a 1490 or above, like it's really difficult to get into these like top schools, I would say. And even if you have those scores, but you have nothing else to show for it, like your extracurriculars, your personal statement and stuff, like it really doesn't like mean anything. So like your SATs and your standardized tests might seem like really, really important in your college application process. But like someone said, like I also think the most important things that like about my application were my essays and my extracurriculars because and obviously like your GPA like you need to have like the cutoff of the grades for it, but your extracurriculars and your essays like carry your application because that's when the admissions officers get to like know who you are as a person and like what you did throughout high school more than just who you were as a student on paper, like based on your grades and stuff. So it's important. And if you do think you're going to do well in your SATs or ACTs, like go for it and take the test and study hard. But that's not the only factor that they look at. So don't stress too much if like you don't have the score that you want. Like focus, hone in on your essays and your extracurriculars and make them and like buff them up, make them as like great as possible. Make yourself sound great because no one else is going to do that besides like yourself or your application.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Maintain your GPA, write those essays, keep doing your extracurriculars. I feel like SAT isn't like the only factor that they look at, but it definitely is important. I'm not gonna lie, one of the schools that I did apply to was not test optional last year, so I did have to set in my scores, but other than that, all the other schools I went test optional as well, so it's not the biggest factor. Don't worry, guys. But if you do have the chance to do it, you should definitely take it.
Yeah, I also bombed the SAT, but you can also take the ACT if you want. That's always an option. But if you think you're not a good test taker in general, then that's also not the end of the world. Like I work for admissions at Cornell, and like I'm always in contact with admissions officers. Like literally testing, like your test score is like just one of so many different factors they take into consideration. So I just wanted you guys to keep note of that. Like I've been in contact with different admissions officers at Cornell, and they always like are saying that in meetings. So if you think your test score isn't that good, like don't worry about it. Like make sure to focus on things you can control, like your essay, the clubs you're in, and stuff like that. Okay, so someone asked, how did you get an inspiration for your personal statement? How did you know what to write about, or did you write about being Tibetan?
For my personal statement, it wasn't really an essay per se. Like it wasn't like a narrative of like my life and stuff. So I just like completely like threw a shot in the like threw a dart in the, I don't know what the catchphrase is, but I did a completely different like format for my essay where it was like a Buddhist ontological theory, like about the 12 links of dependent origination, which does not mean you have to do something completely different. It's just like I was working on a like an essay, regular like narrative format, like about like my personal statement essay, but like as I was writing, I realized like this is not the one, this is not the essay that like I feel like really reflects me as a person. So like after having like conversations with like my brother, my parents or something, like I worked on an essay that I thought like truly reflected who I was and also had like all the components of like I feel like being Tibetan, being like but more than just being Tibetan. Um, I think like really like showing yourself and in a unique way, I think is really important because it's easy to say like you did this throughout high school and like this is why you should be accepted, but like making sure that the way you convey your messages and your ideas is very like unique to you and like try to think outside the box in the sense like if you don't want to write a traditional essay like you don't have to just write to the best of your ability and obviously there's resources of like Rokpa and like you can always reach out to me, for example, to review your essays and stuff. So there are resources available. You just have to like look to find them and reach out to as many people. Some people say it's not helpful, but it was helpful for me to reach out to people to like read my essay or stuff. But at the end of the day, like you know what like you know yourself best, so you know like the how good your essay is going to come out based on like how happy you are with it, you know. So think outside the box and write like being authentically yourself.
Um, I got inspiration like how Yiga talked about how she didn't make hers like a personal narrative of her life. That's exactly what I did. So it kind of goes to show how you can go either way. Um, and I think like I did write about my Tibetan heritage and I have a more like unique experience of being half Tibetan, half white. So I wrote about like being in two cultures and all that. But I think it's really important to remember that if you do choose to write about being Tibetan, you have to do it like really tactfully, you know? You can't do it like, oh, pity me, I'm Tibetan, we don't have a country, you know? Uh, and you can't really it's important to not to pretend to be somebody you're not just because you think it'll sound good to a college admissions officer, you know? You're if you write about being Tibetan, you should write about your experience with being Tibetan and how it connects to your academic and career goals. I wrote about how since I grew up in India in Dharamsala, which is a refugee settlement, it helped inspire my career goal of being a human rights lawyer because I want to help refugees. So that's how I tied in my Tibetan heritage to my essay. But I think like it's really important and it's very individualized. So I don't think anyone else can tell you how to incorporate your Tibetan heritage in your essay. I'm just saying try to do it with tact and with like grace, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sangmo and Yugo. But like Sangmo said, I think you said you wrote about your life in Dasa, right? I think. Okay. Anyways, moving on. I also did write about my life as a refugee in Nepal and how my dad, it was actually in a memoir kind of way because I wrote about a specific moment and exactly like when I wanted to go into the STEM field and become a civil engineer and how much like I like Tibet's architecture and it was a lot. But I definitely did tie in my Tibetan heritage in my essay as well. But that's not like the only thing I wrote about.
Yeah, I think our Tibetan identity makes us really unique, and we feel compelled to kind of talk about it in our Common App. But again, like there are a lot of Tibetans applying to college. Like most of you are applying to college this like in this cycle. So it's important to kind of integrate your own personal experiences being Tibetan as well to kind of make it stand out even more. So like for me, I talked about making momos with my cousin, and I kind of use that as a metaphor for like my life. Um, so yeah, just kind of approaching it in different angles is really important. So the next question is, what resources did you guys use to strengthen your essays slash how did you know your essay was strong enough?
I think my biggest resource is my brother. Um, and I know like maybe not everyone has like older siblings who like been through the college application process, but being first generation, like I couldn't really ask my parents about like help with the college application process. So um, like having like a older Tibetan figure who has been through the college application process was really important for me because there's like certain things you don't need to explain about being Tibetan or like your identity that they can just understand through reading the essays. But also my guidance counselor in school, who was not Tibetan, was really important because, like, obviously your guidance counselors like want you to do well and they want you to get into the schools that you're applying to. So having like that different perspective was really important for me too, and your having people in Rokpa review your essays is really important, probably. Probably will be really important because it's like similar to having like an older figure who's already in college. But yeah, just like taking the feedback with like a grain of salt because like you might not agree with like the feedback and you might like not want to add what they are saying, but just like hearing that advice and then thinking about how you want to alter your essay or if you actually want to keep it the same way, you know, just like taking advice from like different sources um, and you deciding for yourself if that's what you want to change or keep with your essays. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say my older sister was one of my biggest resources. And my college counselor was my best friend for like my whole senior year. Like she helped me throughout everything. Like she had to hold my hand through a lot. And yeah, they just let me know how my essay was and if it was strong enough for that school. Like they were very blunt with me, so I really appreciated that. I feel like you need a mentor to do that, and Rokpa is a great way for you to get that mentor.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Oh yeah, you can go, Sangwon. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing. I was gonna say that I don't have like I do have an older sister, but she's 26 and she lives in South America. So there's no way I could like contact her or ask her for help with college essays. So when I was writing my college essays and just going through the whole process, I really do wish I had people to kind of help guide me because I didn't really show my essays to friends or anything like that. I just kind of submitted them and hoped for the best. And in a way, it was good because my resource was myself, and no one knows you better than yourself. But I really like there was a grammar mistake in my Stanford essay. And that was something I only found out after I showed it to my friend who's at Rokpa. So it just made me think like it would have been nice to have an organization like Rokpa when I was applying for college because having I think it's important to have your own mind when writing your essays, but just getting, feedback from people who know what they're talking about, that's the most important part. Just people who know what they're talking about giving you feedback.
Yeah, for sure. I think that also captures the essence of this panel. People who know what they're talking about, having just finished the college application process. So hopefully this panel has been helpful for you guys. Definitely put your questions in the chat, but the last one I see on mine is, did you apply ED, EA, or regular decision? Does applying early action really make a difference or increase your chances of getting in?
I applied early decision to Stanford because I kind of accepted because I got a terrible SAT score. The only thing I really had going for me was my GPA and extracurriculars. So I think it's important to apply early decision if you know that that's the school that if you get accepted, you're gonna go to. Um, and you have to consider financial aid and all that when you're thinking about that. But for me, I kind of took a gamble. I was relying that Stanford would give me a lot of financial aid because their endowment is so high. And they did. So it was like a good gamble to take. But I applied early decision, and early decision for Stanford, early decision applicants got in at a 7% rate, while regular decision applicants got in at like a 3.9 or something like that. So it kind of doubles your chances. So if I were you, I would apply early decision if there's a school that you know you're going to go to if you get in.
I can go next. I applied restrictive early action. So like Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, they do something called restrictive early action where if you it's a similar weight to an early decision, but if you get in, it's not binding, so you don't have to go. But that was really great because I did not want to do early decision and be binded to a school. Um, so I did REA to Yale actually, and because I thought that that's where I wanted to go and I was going to go, and then I did end up getting in early at Yale, but I just took a chance and applied to other schools to kind of see like if other schools would give me better financial aid or something. And then when Ivy Day came out, I didn't expect to, but I ended up getting into Harvard, and the financial aid was similar, but the decision just came down to like a personal decision on where I would rather go. But definitely, I would say that applying restrictive early action or early decision or just early action in general to schools is definitely like a boost to your application. Um, the restricted early action to Yale percentage was, I think, also like 6%. or something. But regular decision to Harvard was like about 2%. So it was definitely, you're competing with a lot larger pool for regular decision. So if that's a school that you want to go to and you know that no matter what you're going to end up going to that school, applying early decision or restrictive early action definitely increases your chances by like a couple percentages, which is still very slim. But if that's like a dream school or like a uh, reach school that you really want to go to, I would suggest applying early and just seeing. But also apply regular decision to some schools if you're not doing early decision, because you can always work out financial aid to get more money from these schools.
Personally, I didn't do early decision because I didn't want to be binded to any schools yet, because I wasn't really sure at first. But to my school personally, I did do early action, and now I'm here. But I feel like early action is good if you're like, the first thing schools really do look at is your GPA and your grades. So I feel like if you do really have good grades, then you should definitely apply early action, because the pool is so competitive. It's all like everybody that has good grades that are going to apply to these amazing schools. So definitely apply if your grades are really good, early action or early decision. But also, if you're like thinking about going to that school, then regular decision is also great. Not saying that kids with really good grades don't apply regular decision. They do, but I feel like the pool for early action, early decisions are a little more competitive.
For sure. And then I did get another another thing in the chat. It asks, what are things or activities that you guys did throughout high school to help you kind of stand out?
For me, balancing stuff while in school and outside of school is really important for me, because some people have like passion projects or something that sets them apart. But I think what I try to do was do like a few different things, but like take big roles in those things. And like obviously I was really passionate about all the things I was doing, but taking like leadership roles in the things you're doing and things you're passionate about really important. And also like showing up and being present while being like a student, because being a student and being a student athlete was a really big part of my application, I would say, because it's very time consuming. But also like throughout school I did like student government and like debate and model congress, like just things that I like to do. And I like gave all my time like while I was in school doing those things. And then when I was not in school, I was usually doing like sft stuff, if you guys know what that is. So I was doing like organizing like actions or demonstrations with like my local chapter. And then I was also working. So like having that like balance between like being like a present like member of your school and doing things while in school, and having a good having like leadership roles and good reputation while in school, but also balancing that with things outside of school was really important for me. And I think that set my like extracurriculars aspect of my application like apart from other people, because a lot of times like someone will just like pick one thing or like that's really special to them. But I kind of try to like balance things inside and outside of school and try to take up leadership positions. So that was really great.
Yeah. Oh, somewhere you can go.
No, it's okay. You go ahead.
Okay. I feel like for extracurriculars wise, you don't have to do everything your school has to offer. Just do things that you really like and that you're actually going to partake in the long run, or something that relates to your major or things you want to do with your career prospects. And be really good at it and take leadership roles, like Iga said. And I feel like that's more important than doing every single extracurricular you can think of. Just do a few that you're really good at and that you really enjoy, and then talk about them maybe in your supplemental essays.
So for me, I did a lot of community service throughout high school, and I would recommend doing community service because it's a good because your college application is going to ask you to list like 10 activities, hobby or job or something like that. Listing community service always looks good. Community service is really fun to do throughout high school, and it can help meet school requirements and stuff like that. Also, I wrote about my interest in music because I like to mix, and I got an internship doing that throughout high school. So, writing about my internship as a high schooler, because a lot of folks in college have internships, but it's rare to see high schoolers get internships, you know? So, if you get an internship with maybe like a Tibet related organization or an organization in the field that you're interested in, I think that's another really interesting extracurricular you could add. So, community service and internships is my advice.
Yeah, okay. So I don't really see anything else in the chat. So if the audience doesn't have any other questions, we can conclude the meeting. But before you guys leave, can everyone turn on their camera so we can take a nice group picture? We want to see your beautiful faces. And we want to kind of, oh my God, Bima, hi. I didn't think it was you because we have another scholar with the same name as you, so I thought it was her. Hi.
No, it was me this whole time.
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
already a college student, but I'm
Yeah.
nosy, so.
Yes. Bema's amazing, guys. Well, can anyone else turn on their cameras if you guys aren't busy so we can take a picture? Yes. It's okay, Ngawang. Okay. We don't have to look perfect. I'm literally in my pajamas right now, so it's fine. Okay, going once, going twice. I'm gonna take a picture now. 1, 2, 3. One more just in case. 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. Okay, thank you so much for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions, email Rokpa or Slack us. And if no one else has any questions, we can just end the call. Bye.
Yeah,
Good night. Xin chào
Thank you. Did you know?
Bye.